Welcome back, Recliner Sports Reporters. Robbie, how
What's up,
are
man?
we?
Good.
Dude, I'm doing good. It's almost football season, and we have football this week, right?
Yeah, can't wait. Got a Hall of Fame game. Always a big week in Stark County. Got the ribs burn off, bro. It's a good time in Stark County, Ohio, right now.
Thursday, August 3rd, next Thursday, it is going to be Jets versus Browns, buddy. Are you are you going to that game?
Nah, it'd be cool, but preseason games are, you know, it's not worth a couple hour drive.
They're cheap, cheap
Yeah,
tickets.
if I lived in town or if I lived close, yeah, I'd go. But man, 2 hours both ways, it's tough for a preseason game when you only get to see the starters for a few plays and usually by the second half. As a diehard fan, I'm still struggling to name half the guys on the field.
Yeah, during that time because they're all just fighting for spots. You're not really
Yeah,
getting um
it's close to watching a Canadian Football League game in the second half of the preseason.
yeah. Um so with that being said, it is almost football season, so we thought it would be a great chance for us to start talking about what we think each division will do. And for this week's episode, we're going to start off with the division that we know best. And honestly, the division that has a lot of questions in it right now because there's a lot of moving pieces that haven't. And I will always say this, but the AFC North. And this is why I think the AFC North is one of the top divisions in the NFL. It's because you have Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, and Mike Tomlin's over for the Steelers, right?
Yeah,
It's you got the Steelers who have always been well coached, know how to every year they have a chance to make every year they have a chance to make the playoffs. You have Lamar Jackson, one of the top NFL quarterbacks. You got Deshaun Watson for an angry Browns team and has a lot to prove. And then I mean stats can't lie, but Joe Shiesty and the electric offense for the Bengals. Um, as long as he's still quarterback, yeah. So they're still a contender to win. So I really do think that this division is a division where all four teams every year have a chance to win, and it's a tough, tough battle. And the best conference in football, hands down. Um, but before we get into that, some breaking news. Justin Herbert has
Jay Herbert
now
got paid.
I feel like if we were to go back to our first episode and we were announcing that Jalen Hurts was now the highest paid NFL quarterback, and then like 2 weeks later, Lamar Jackson is now. I feel like every time we announce that someone's the new highest paid quarterback, someone else comes up. So it almost like there's two questions here. First question is, what are your thoughts on Justin Herbert's payday? And the second question is does it pay off? Does it pay to wait to see what else is going on? Did he get more money because he waited? Like,
I think
talk to me
so. I
through
think
this.
it's smart right now as a quarterback. I think it's smart. I know this is going to hurt you, but Burrow's been smart in waiting at this point because every time he waits and somebody else signs, he's just getting himself an extra 10, 15, $20 million in that contract because they all keep just barely one upping each other. That's what it's all about. I feel like it's a pride thing. They don't even really care. Let's be honest. Kind of like Jose Ramirez saying 200 million, 300 million. It's all the same. At that point, you're so wealthy, it doesn't matter. It's really about a pride thing for them just to be able to say that they're the highest paid at their position in the league. So good for Herbert. Still don't know if I can see the Chargers being a legit threat in the AFC, but they're good. They're fun to watch at times. And yeah, man, I'm thinking 275 for Burrow, 275 plus.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit offline. Robert Griffin III tweeted out that the Bengals might as well just sign Joe Burrow for 10 years and 500 mil, which would put him roughly at about 50 mil a year. Um, I think you're right. Joe waiting, he all the cards have been played now. But here's the caveat. I could also see a reality where Joe takes less money and sets up his offense for the next 5 to 10 years and says, "Hey, I'm going to take this pay cut and I'm going to get remembered for my Super Bowl wins." Because I think he's smart enough to know that he can't win a Super Bowl without the guys around him. Um, and then this is going to totally mess up the whole entire QB market even more because you have to ask yourself, Justin Herbert, because then me and you as sports fans, we're thinking, well, Justin Herbert's getting paid that much money, and that dude has zero playoff wins. Like
Yeah,
now you got a
and
quarterback.
Burrow be worth more.
You got yeah right like because you got Burrow who has taken his team to back conference championships and won Super Bowl, and he's making less. Now you thought of as an owner is, well, what am I paying you for, Lamar? What am I? And now you're going to have a lot of craziness going in and out of the league. And the other thing is, all these teams that have made these big deals for these quarterbacks come next season when it's starting to re up the weapons, their cap space is a lot smaller now. And that's just,
Yeah,
I'm no accountant, but I know simple math enough to know that if I'm paying this quarterback the highest dollar that I can, well, what does that mean for the rest
got
of
to
my
give
salary
something.
cap space? Yep.
Yeah, whether it be the defense, the other weapons on offense, you're giving up something somewhere with that.
Yes. So
But
I do see a reality where Joe takes less money, but I could also see like everyone of the smart business side. I mean, everyone. Well,
you
I'd
think
say
he's
most.
gonna take less than Lamar and less than Deshaun and not even be the highest paid quarterback in his division?
You see again, like I think like everyone who is a regular human and thinks that the most important thing is getting paid, which most of us do because we have bills that we need to pay and we have lives and expenses that we want to live. But I'm seeing it from the thing is the way Joe Burrow acts, right? Very humble, very respected, very honestly, kind of like wringing water out of a rag sometimes in terms of like you already know what you're going to get from an interview. Like he's very like you already know it, the water's coming out, but it's not going to be entertaining. I could see him thinking, taking the mindset of like you were kind of saying earlier. It's like, well, once you make over 20 million, whether it's 50 million, like is the money really different from 25 million to 50 million in terms of like you kind of got everything now. So what's more important to me? A Super Bowl. And I think of it like guys like Michael Jordan. Would we remember Michael Jordan if he didn't win all those championships? Do we remember guys like Wayne Gretzky? Do we remember guys?
You talk about Charles Barkley still.
Well, because he's so in your
Yeah,
face and he can become a meme out of everything. Plus, him and Shaq are hilarious together. But you think to
yeah.
yourself, what's the longevity outside the game, and is that worth the 50 mil now, or is it worth 25 million now, and you're going to go win a bunch of Super Bowls, and you're going to be remembered forever? And I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I'd be cool to be in that position. That's how I think Joe's going to talk. But I think any smart,
I feel that
regular,
your fanhood's talking a lot,
yeah.
man.
But I think
Yeah.
like if you're like any reasonable human being, you're like, no, take the money because nothing's guaranteed. So take the money. Now, another option I could see is you pay Joe. I think a 10, I mean, if you're invested in this guy, then a 10-year contract makes sense. But what you have to do with that is you have to
By
make
the
the
end
guarantee.
of it, you're going to be paying him cheap.
Yeah, you have to
Like,
make the guaranteed money less because if he gets hurt, like you got to have a little, like they got to run a business too. So the insurance policy would be a little bit less. I feel like the guaranteed money would be a little bit less if you go for something like 10 years because you really don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. I mean, we've seen a lot of crazy things. I mean, we can only hope that he lasts forever. And I think everyone wants to see Joe go for a long time because he's entertaining to watch. And I don't even think that's just a Bengals fan talking. I think anyone
yeah,
can agree that Joe Burrow makes the NFL a better product. Um, but it is going to be interesting. He has played his cards the best way you could play them, though, because it is all in his court now. Because, like you said, if he is playing the stingy card, he can now look across the league and say, "Well, why does that guy get more money than me? Why does that guy get more money than me?" Like Jalen Hurts makes sense. He just took his team to a Super Bowl. But Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, you're telling me I can't make more money than those guys? If he plays that card, he
Yeah.
can. He has put himself in a position if he wants to play that card, he is totally allowed to do it. I just don't think he will.
So we set the over under at 280.
Well, I'm going to break it down by year. So I don't know what the contract will be, but I say for the next couple years, he's going to be close to 50 mil. So I think if we have, what is that, 3 years, that's what, 250. I think he's going to keep his cap around 50 mil. That's what I think it is. Because
That'd
what's
be that'd be less than Herbert.
right.
Herbert got
And
5 years, 262.5.
so, yeah, what does that break down per year?
52, 53.
Yeah. So I think Joe's going
Yeah.
to stay around. I think Joe's going to stay around 50 mil a year. Now, the thing is, I think the curious question is, how long is this contract going to be? And
Yeah.
again, I think if you're the Bengals, you're stupid to not try to
Gotta lock him up.
lock him. And again, you're not going to get a cheaper price in now, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it may like looking back at Deshaun Watson when we signed him, it was absurd. Man, we paid a quarterback $250 million. Guess what? There's 8 guys, 7 guys, or something like that making more already. What, a year later?
A year later.
And we got him locked in now for the next 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah, there's no more having to pay him any more money, right? He's
yeah.
he's in what he's in. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I mean, again, I remember when Pat was the highest guy, right?
Hmm.
And they still did all right. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Speaking of the Bengals and all this division, though, so let's break down the division.
All
Um,
right. So I want to talk about a team that I feel like lost the most this offseason.
okay, cool. Yeah,
They made some pickups as well, added a little bit to the offense, locked up their quarterback long term, but the Ravens defense took some hits.
they did.
Calais Campbell's gone, Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Houston, Marcus Peters. They lost about half of their starting lineup from last season. And that's always been the thing that's kept that Ravens team as a top tier team was their defense. It's just always been one of the best. So they've added OBJ, they added Zay, some talented receivers, but is Lamar going to be able to get the ball to him? That's what it
How
comes down to.
I when was the last? This is a good question. When was the last time Lamar's played a full season?
I think it's been 2, 3 years.
Was it his like MVP year? And did
I
he
think so.
play the
2019,
and did he even play the full season then? Or I mean,
Good question.
I think this team goes when Lamar goes. I think it's
Yeah,
very clear. And when he's going, it's an amazing, very hard to stop team.
fun to watch.
But like you said, their defense has kept them at the top tier. When you
Yeah.
remove the defensive pieces that you just listed, can Lamar carry more of that weight now? And for
Mm.
how long?
Yeah, that's a good question because I mean, if those defenses, if OBJ's not healthy, they say that Zay's what 6'1" now, 6'2". Went in this off season at 5'9", 5'10". The guy's grown like 3, 4 inches in an off season. That makes a huge difference. Is a wideout just adding to that target, but he also has to keep his hand-eye coordination and keep his footwork down. You can't get doppy at that point, growing that fast, that quick. So we'll see how it pans out for him. I think I think the Ravens could either be really good this year or they could be bottom of the division.
I know a couple episodes ago when we were kind of talking about this, or maybe it was a TikTok I made. I did say I think the Ravens finish. I think the Ravens are going to have too many off-field issues this year. I think they finish. Weirdly enough, I think they finish last in the division. That's my hot take, bold prediction: is the Ravens finished last in the AFC North.
I can see it 100%. The Steelers always find a way to win games. They could finish around 500. I could see Lamar getting hurt or Lamar having issues and their season just being in the gutter from the get-go and them just winning 4 or 5 games.
Yep, 100%. So that takes us. Let's keep moving up the list. What's the next one you want to talk about?
Yeah, we go Steelers next.
Okay,
Biggest question I feel like for them is Kenny Pickett the guy?
is he the guy?
You don't know that. Don't know that he isn't, but still a lot of questions to be answered in that locker room.
He
They
had
got some talent
promising.
on offense.
Yeah, he had promising games last year. There were some promising moments that I think if you're a Steelers fan, you got to give him this year, and you got to be more supportive of him than you were last year.
Yeah,
I feel like if you got to get behind him like you got behind Big Ben, and I think that's the only way you're going to be able to help this kid become, you know, the steel curtain QB is you got to be behind him because if you give him any, I always say, it's like you don't want to give him the Cleveland treatment, and look what happened to all your guys' quarterbacks, right?
they go.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So you got to be supportive of the guy. I think that's one reason why guys like Lamar and guys like Joe are doing really well. Their cities are behind them. I mean,
yeah,
Baltimore, they they were saying they should pay Lamar. They were boycotting, pay Lamar.
yeah,
They need to get behind Kenny for him to have a chance of being successful. But I think he's got an amazing weapon in Pickens. I think George
yeah.
Pickens is one of the
Also,
most
Allen
top
Robinson
receivers.
third.
Yep. I think Pickens is top 20, if not top 15 receivers in the NFL right now.
I can see that. He's he's a typical diva receiver. If he wants to play and he wants to be out there, he can be one of the best around. He's just got to keep his head in and just keep working hard.
He
Seems like he
can
takes too many plays off and he gets mad if he doesn't get the ball and shuts down, quits running routes. I mean, gosh, it's literally all the stereotypes about receivers.
he is
But
an
he will
absolute
hit though.
menace.
So he isn't that one. The dude will block and he will light somebody up blocking too. So I love that. I love receivers that can block. So
He is an absolute menace on the field. And I love him. I love him. If those two can get a connection going, I see it. And then defensively, I mean, I think the Steelers defensively um, have returned some key players. I mean, you still got Watt out there, uh, one of the
Cam
top,
Hayward,
yeah, one of the top defensive uh, pass rushers in the league right now in Watt. I mean that's again one of they get after the QB. I mean that's
got
what they
some
do.
DB help, signed Patrick Peterson, got Joey Porter Jr., a legacy player there. So yeah, I don't want to see the Steelers win, but I don't expect them to be much below 500 when the season comes.
Another bold prediction. I see Bengals, Browns, and Steelers all making the playoffs this year.
Whew, I like it.
I see it.
That
I
would
see it
be
happening.
nice.
I see it happen. I see us sending three from the north this year. All right. What's the next one we want to talk about?
Well, I think only last one we got. We kind of covered the Bengals to start.
So let's cover
Just
Browns, baby.
man, big off-season pickup, Elijah Moore. I'm excited about him. They're talking about using him out of the backfield, using him in the slot, using him out wide, just trying to find ways to get the ball in his hands. Uh, got a first full season with Deshaun Watson, so time to see if he was worth that contract. See if it was really worth the $250 million or not. Other big thing I'm excited about is our defense. Our interior D line was pretty weak last year. They went and picked up Big Dalvin Tomlinson to address that. We got Ogbonia Akonora, however you say that guy's name, opposite Miles Garrett now. These guys are just going to be some animals. Alex Wright is starting to come into his own as the league. I've seen him doing drills with Miles Garrett, and he's just getting bigger, more built. You can't teach size, and he's 6'5" and long, lanky. I think the Browns' defensive line is going to be one of the best in all of football this year.
I'm agreeing with you on that one. They have some scary dudes up there.
A lot of big people eaters.
Yeah, I think this is going to come down to what is the Deshaun Watson experiment going to play out like,
Yep.
and uh can you get Chubb? Can you keep him healthy enough, and can
Mhm.
you get his productivity enough up to make him an impact player? And
Got to
what?
15, 20 touches a game.
Yeah, and if you
Every
keep that formula, I think again, I see the Browns finishing second, comfortable second.
game. And I think we can win the Super Bowl. I don't think we're going to lose when we get there.
So how do you what's your prediction on how the division is going to finish? Way
my,
too
my
early
my
prediction.
my heart says us, you guys, Steelers, Ravens. My head says you guys, us, Steelers, Ravens.
Okay, I like it. I agree. I think Ravens. My prediction is Ravens bottom. Um, I think it's going to be really, really close for the middle two between the Browns and the Steelers. I'm gonna go with Steelers third, Browns second, and of course I'm gonna be rocking with the Bengals first. And again, really, I know I'm coming from this from a fan standpoint, but again, you just look at what the Bengals have been able to do this offseason. They've secured offensive linemen. They've got rid of defensive players, but replaced them with other defensive players or had guys were already ready to go. So it was okay that we lost those safeties, right? We picked up a great defensive lineman that's going to be able to add a little bit more support for our other defensive linemen that we already have. Weapons wise, being able to keep Joe Mixon and get his pay cut. You still got Joe Burrow at the helm, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are still out there. I think really the only guy on like the Bengals that you like, if I'm worried, like if I'm a Bengals player, is Tyler Boyd. It's like, what do you do with Tyler Boyd? But the Bengals then went and drafted a good wide receiver. We have Trent Irwin coming up. We have another young guy from last year coming up. So if the Bengals can find out how to get those young guys up, they're going to be good for a long time. So I know I come from a fan standpoint, but it's just like if you look at like the facts on the paper, like that's what it. But I still am a believer, and I keep telling my dad, and he doesn't believe it. I still think the safest bet right now, you want to lock, is Browns plus 2.5 week one against the Bengals. I think you guys cover that. If not win.
We always find ways to play good against you.
I'm still convinced we're losing that game. And I
Yeah.
and I love the Bengals, but I know how we come out week one.
Yeah. And man, really, Burrow's only beat the Browns, what, one time so
One
far?
time, one time, one time. That's it.
Where's kryptonite?
You really are. And I was there for the massacre.
Oh, yeah, that was, yeah.
My
That was...
birthday massacre. Oh, probably one of the worst games of football I've ever watched.
Yeah,
Um,
that was brutal. I felt bad for you, but I
it
was
was bad.
loving
Yeah, right. I'm
it.
excited for this home opener. What do you they usually do giveaways? What do we think the giveaway is going to be for the home opener?
Have no idea. We'll wait and see. Supposed to be getting some jackets, like a varsity jacket type thing, as a season ticket holder gift. Haven't seen that yet, so we'll
Ooh.
see if that shows up. Get one of them for my 9 seats.
Whoa, you should get 9.
Yeah, you would think so. That's what everybody else thinks too, but they used to give like a couple, and now it's yeah, you'll get one.
But what if those were 9 individual? That's messed up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree.
You get 9 tickets, you get 9 jackets. That's
Yeah,
simple
it
math.
makes sense. When it was socks, they gave me 9 pairs of socks.
It's just because it's a jacket. Dang. All right, buddy. Well, before we wrap up, anything else?
I'll hit a couple of famous 30s.
Yeah, we got episode 30. Who do you got?
Well, speaking of guaranteed money a little bit ago, guaranteed Rasheed Wallace was always one of
Oh man.
the most fun basketball players to watch and listen to trash talk back in the day. Uh, One of the greatest pitchers of all time, Nolan Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Got the Curry family, Steph, Dell, and Seth. I guess I should say Dell first, father first, but
I mean, Steph Curry has got to be like the top guy.
yeah. And then you also had another famous family that both wore 30. It was the Griffeys.
Those are Another two good ones right there.
Got a Super Bowl winning running back, Terrell Davis. Trying to think there was a couple goalies too. So Martin Brodeur and Lundqvist.
Yep. And then I got probably one of the best running backs to never be, Todd Gurley.
Yeah. Back to back Todd Gurley mentions 2 weeks in a row.
Dude, he
Find
started
another
that whole
podcast
trend.
out there in 2023 that's doing that.
That guy had, oh man, he was dangerous. Oh, one of the best goalies to ever do it, Boston Bruins, Gary Cheevers. Wow, that was another one, number 30. He had the sickest masks back in the day. Gary Cheevers. So there you go for all my Boston friends and listeners out there. Number 30, famous athlete, Gary Cheevers. To toast to one of the greats. All right, any other ones?
I'm all good for this week.
All right. Next week, let us know in the comments below what division you want us to cover next week. If not, we're just going to pick the next best one that we think. Thank you all so much. Don't worry, we're almost there to NFL season, so don't don't get too sad because the best time of year is right around the corner. Um, Robbie, I love you, buddy. It's good
Love you
seeing
too.
you. And
Always.
to everyone else, keep the change.